joining my Instagram Live. Today I'm going to be doing episode 8 of the Edmonton Business Show. I'm going to be interviewing, her name is Kristen. She is a photographer here in my city. Her company name is KMH Forte. And she actually did my recent, pictures for a photo shoot that I did. And I wanted her to join the conversation here for the Edmonton Business Show. I'm going to join Kristen in.
The sound's still working? There you go. I hope you did a little match before.
Oh, that's okay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, great. Can you hear a static sound, or is that just me?
Everything sounds okay on my end, but I can put in some different headphones if it sounds
okay.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, it sounds a lot better.
I'll just hold it.
Hey, Kristen, thanks so much for joining the Edmonton Business Show. As I might have mentioned in some of my other shows, I came up with this whole concept because before the quarantine, I would meet with networking individuals at groups, and I thought it would be a great idea for me to feature people that I've worked with and help them get to know my audience and vice versa, and just have a conversation. Really, this is all about you. Hey, thanks for joining in. So how did you start off as a photographer? What made you become excited about getting into this field?
Yeah, well, I started doing photography from a young age. So outside of just, being a creative person as a kid, I always had a camera with me. I was always making videos when I was younger. I worked at a marketing startup agency when I was in university, and it just kind of happened by chance. I had a friend of mine that had graduated university and was hoping to start a business in marketing, and so they had kind of a business started, and so I just kind of jumped on as a photographer to learn a little bit more, but I also kind of had a passion for it, so that's kind of how it started.
Oh, that's awesome. And I really like your feed. I think it's beautiful. I'm actually glad that one of my followers tagged me because it aligns with femininity. It aligns with a real the person's energy and their personality. And I think that you were really able to capture that. Even though we don't know each other, sometimes that photographer thing has to click, but you really captured me. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity and what you do. Do you have any recommendations for people who might want to become photographers? Any tips and advice?
Well, I think the best place to start is just to get yourself familiar with other photographers and other creative people in the community. I think in Edmonton there's a real collaborative approach no matter what kind of creative industry you're in. So I think that's a great place to start, and you don't need the fanciest equipment in order to get going. I definitely did not start with fancy equipment, and the best way to learn is just from other people, and there's lots of videos on YouTube that can help too. So I think just get connected, getting connected with others, with yourself too, and learning the branding tips that you have and give to your audience, I think is great. And there's so many people in Edmonton to meet and to learn from, for sure.
Now, this is a big thing that comes up sometimes is a lot of people are using their cell phones, their Androids, and their iPhones, and right now I'm in front of a window, so it's kind of helping with lighting. Do you have any, what are the best places indoors for people to take photos as far as lighting, and do you have any maybe recommendations in Edmonton where people can go and take photos?
Yeah, well, I'm largely a natural light photographer. I don't have a ton of knowledge when it comes to a studio setting. So I typically do my photo shoots outdoors or indoors in free public spaces whenever I get the chance. So some of my favorite locations pre-COVID, I don't know what their schedule is like right now, but I like going to university, going to MQ, and they have some really great well-lit open spots that are great to utilize even in the coldest months in Edmonton. Going into cafes is always great. There's some great cafes in Edmonton like Mosaic. I know a lot of people go there. The Moss, which is just down Jasper there, Square One Coffee, all those places that you can go in and utilize the space for free, which is awesome. And there's some also studios in Edmonton as well that I've booked with that have great prices. Hey You Studio is one that they have prices starting at just $30 to rent their studio space. So, there's always low-cost options that have lighting that will work well. So, always recommendations for sure.
That's awesome. Hi, thanks for joining, Cheryl. Now, I know some of my followers are mixed. Some of them are self-employed, employees, and some of them even want to be social influencers. Do you have any, like, branding tips or color tips or, like, any kind of ideas that you can offer somebody who's just trying to get started as an influencer and create their brand on Instagram, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing as far as, branding and how I kind of help support people is to try to figure out, like, what 3 or 4 colors you want to integrate into your posts and into your feed, into your stories, and try to create a theme, so to speak. Like, I know with mine, I use a lot of, like, brown and neutral tones, and so I try to integrate that into every post, into all of my stories, into my highlights, just to get it looking pretty. But as you know, that's only part of it. Having a nice feed is great, but you have to really try to build that community too in order to be successful. But yeah, I think as far as colors go and the photos go, just try to find 3 or 4 colors and try to stick to those or integrate them as best as you can when you're doing your posting.
Awesome. And as far as, like, the people that you choose, are those mainly, like, customers or are they influencers? Like, let's say you just wanted to work with somebody, like a model or an entrepreneur, and maybe you just wanted to do a collabo. What exactly are you looking for before you can actually align your brand with that individual?
Yeah, I think typically, like, if I'm going to be doing a branding package for somebody, just having a conversation ahead of time, it's usually coffee, or again, with COVID, it might be like a video chat. Just got to get a sense of what their brand is and what they envision. It's always great to get, people to send me a couple of accounts that they really like, to give me an idea of what they're kind of trying to achieve and what they're going for. And I think, too, people sometimes underestimate how important just your own personality is too. Like, some people might say, well, I'm selling, this item, but I don't really want to talk too much about myself. It's not about me. But a lot of times, people want that personal experience too. So, really it's just having that conversation ahead of time just to kind of see who their idols are, what they like the look of, and then just get a sense of, their brand, essentially.
And what do you like most about photography?
I really like meeting people is great. I think Edmonton has got such a large community of people. That's how we were able to meet over Instagram, which is amazing. But I also really like that it is so creative, and even looking back on, my work for 6 months or 2 years, it's something that I'm always changing and growing. I can notice myself getting better over time, which is great. It's one of those things that I don't think you ever, a lot of jobs are like that, professions, but it's never going to be perfect. There's always more to improve and more to learn. So,
absolutely. Do you have any favorite photographers that you look up to?
So I've got a lot of photographers in and around the city that I really admire. Tracy Jasmine is one. She's a pretty successful branding photographer. Ao, his Instagram is Lordski. His Instagram, I've followed him for forever, and he does a lot more, like, model work now. Like, he does work with a lot of models and does kind of more higher fashion stuff, but I've always admired his style and his ability to capture people. I could probably go on and on, but a lot of them I know from Instagram, which is so funny that that's kind of like, years ago it was like you pick up a magazine and you learn people's names, but now it's really through social media. But there's so many creative people and so many amazing ways that people are able to capture, one image can look a million different ways, which is so cool.
Absolutely. And ladies on the line, if you have any questions for Kristen about photography, about what she does, anything, let us know in the chat. We want this to be as interactive as possible as we're going along. We'd love to include you in the conversation. And do you have any kind of, are you more of like a lifestyle photographer? Are you open to doing like product photography, maybe going to a construction site? Like, what does your ideal client look like?
Yeah, I do a bit of lifestyle and branding. I would say right now I probably do more branding photography than lifestyle, because I know, not that it's a bad thing, but lifestyle photography, there's a lot of photographers in the city that are in that line of work, because it's a little bit oversaturated. It's kind of hard to find, that niche that kind of sets you apart from other people, which is not a bad thing. Again, I think it's great that there's so many options. But I definitely do a lot of branding photography. I think branding photography for a lot of people is still and can be kind of inaccessible because it is so expensive. So I try to find that like middle ground where people can afford it but also get great photos. So I think that's probably a little bit more where I see myself going long term, is doing a bit more branding photography for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have any certain places in the world that you've been to where you've taken, like, any vacation spots or maybe for work or business? Let us know, because who knows, maybe I might go there next.
Yeah, well, I haven't done a lot of traveling. I don't know, have you done a lot of traveling? Have you gone a lot of
like in the U.S. and the Caribbean. I've been to Hawaii.
Oh, amazing. Yeah,
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Joanne. I've never been anywhere tropical, so that's like a big goal of mine, to go somewhere hot. And the only place that I've really been that in my life, aside from places around Canada, I did go to Eastern Europe like about 5 years ago, so Prague and Germany and Austria, and so I did have my camera at that time, but it was more just kind of taking photos of friends and stuff. But I think, if you're someone who travels, even if you're not into photography, like, take those photos, document your trip, because, there's so many beautiful places in the world that I would love to be able to go.
So what do you think of, like, the progression of Instagram? Because when it first started, it was really an app for photographers, and now everybody's on it. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Do you see photography coming back into the realm of things? Do you think pictures are more relevant than photos on this platform? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, like, Instagram is just a great community. It's a great way to showcase your art. It's a great way to meet other people. It's a great way to learn. Thanks, Joanne. I see it continuing to just be what it is. I know early on a lot of people were like, it's just the next social media app, like the next thing will come along. But I think it's a great way to showcase. It's like a portfolio in a lot of ways for a lot of people, right? You can easily scroll through and see what they're all about and what services they offer. And for photographers, again, it's just a great way to showcase your art, really. So, I think it'll continue to be what it has been. And I don't, not that I think that, magazines or anything are going to go out of style, but I definitely think there's a lot more creative freedom and it's easier to access an audience for sure, having Instagram.
Absolutely. And without disclosing anything that you don't want to, do you have any interesting projects coming up that you want to share with the Instagram followers?
Yeah, well, nothing too big. I think, again, with COVID, it's kind of just taking it week to week, and I know a lot of people in the place that they're at with their business right now, they're just trying to figure out their next steps, given that it's been a hard financial hit for a lot of people. I'm still offering the free photo shoots for Black entrepreneurs in the city, so that's still something that I want to push for and give people that opportunity, because I know it's hard to invest money in your own business and photos and stuff, so that's still something that I'm trying to make sure that message gets out there. But other than that, nothing too big. I'm going to photograph a couple of weddings this summer, which is exciting. So, not too much other than that going on.
That sounds really exciting. If anybody has questions, let us know. We want this chat to be as interactive as possible, so feel free to leave comments and questions in the chat with us. What else can I ask?
These are great questions, by the way.
Oh, yeah. The journalism in me is coming out today.
Yeah,
so.
great.
And, what do you see with the future of photography? I hear this whole thing about 3D coming in. I'm not sure what that's about, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I haven't heard too much about that. I think, there's so many different ways you can go about it and so many different cameras out there. I know the future of photography, I just see, again, like more community building. Like, I hope that more photographers get to collab with other photographers. That's always a goal of mine, to learn from other people. I'm sure there'll be another way that comes out in the next, 15, 20 years to capture that's not just video or camera, like you said, like a 3D kind of capture, and finding ways to, I guess, use that to advertise. I know that there's a couple of apps that have been developed where you can, like, take a picture of a barcode, for example, and it will, like, show an image, like a 3D image on your screen. So I'm sure more of that, but I guess I'll have to do some research. I don't know much about that yet. That sounds cool.
And from what you're noticing now, do you have any recommendations? Because branding seems to be, even though I'm a consultant in it, it's something that I think a lot of companies, even here in Edmonton, just don't necessarily wrap their head their head around. And I do see some companies using stock photos, which is fine, but what can you say? Because I'm really trying to like push this thing on natural selfies and just doing videos and getting in front of a camera. What do you have to fellow entrepreneurs who want to kind of just keep doing the whole stock photography thing versus real images of employees, etc.?
Yeah, well, again, I think it comes back to what you shared too, just the personal aspects of a business. Businesses have been around for many years. We just know the name, and we don't know anything about who runs it or who started it. But I really think that the best part about doing business and the best way to get more customers, so to speak, is to build those relationships and those connections. And you can't really do that if you're not sharing yourself and who you are and your message and your values and stuff with your audience online. So, I would say as part of, like with the business, you invest in advertising and you invest in those things. Photography is just another piece of that. Like, I think it's important to set that money aside, and you don't have to do it all the time, even if it's once a year, to be able to have that connection. I think selfies are, a great way to be like, hey, it's me, and people are like, oh, that's who, is selling this product, that's who's behind it. So, yeah, I think up front it can seem intimidating and expensive and costly, but it's going to be a good investment long term. So,
great. Does anyone have any questions? We'll open it up for questions, any comments that you have for Kristen. Just to introduce anybody who just logged in, this is Kristen. She's the photographer that did the beautiful profile photo that I have up and the recent photo shoot. She's really great at what she does, and a lot of people are kind of confused about photography for themselves and the importance of branding. And she's here to just kind of solve people's problems with answering some questions about how to brand yourself better, how to stand out on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. with beautiful photos. So if you have any questions, post it down below in the comments. She'll be happy to answer. Is there anything in particular that you wanted anybody to know about you, who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about?
I don't think so. I mean, the biggest thing is when I started this business, I realized how important it was to be active on social media and to be posting regularly, and I've kind of kept that in my values too. So when I'm working with people, and they say this is my budget for my business, I always want to try to work within that because I know how important it is to have access to photos for your brand, whether you're selling a product or a service or whatever it may be. So, my prices are, quite reasonable, I think. If you have any questions about photography or if you're not sure if your budget's big enough, feel free to connect with me. I'm always willing to work something out, whether it be, reducing my rates or payment plan or whatever I can kind of manage. So, I know what it's like being a small business owner, and I know how hard it can be to know what the next month will look like. So, I'm always available if anyone has questions.
Awesome. Okay. Did you have any questions for me, Kristen? Anything? Looks like people just want to kind of see our pretty faces.
Yeah. Well, how many shows have you done this Edmonton business show? Do you do this weekly or?
Yeah, I try. This is the 8th episode, and it's been going on for about 3 weeks. About 2.5 months. I try to get some people on, and some people just aren't ready for whatever the reasons are. And then I always try to work with people that I've worked with or I know. Hi, thanks for joining, Teresa. And it's just really just a way to continue to network. I just started doing these Edmonton business shows live. Actually with Teresa, I was doing a branding webinar and the Zoom chat wasn't working, and we just kind of jumped on last night and some people came in, and I think it's just a little bit more interactive and just a great way to say, hey, this is somebody I know, this is someone I work with, and kind of have a chat. This is almost like a chat as if we're in a Starbucks right now, but people are watching it. And it adds to the brand, adds to the conversation, shows what we're doing behind the scenes. So that was pretty much the goal of the Edmonton Business Show.
Yeah, I think it's really accessible too, because I know for a lot of people, if they have to sign up with a link, people are like, oh, that sounds great, but then they don't get around to it or they don't prioritize it. But I think having it on Instagram is great. Do you have any projects coming up or any webinars that you're doing or anything else?
I do have some business meetups coming in. Instagram has been pretty great for driving business. LinkedIn, it's active, but I got more leads and things like that, so I'm doing projects on the side. In addition to that, as far as other webinars, I'm going to stop doing the kind of webinars. It seems like my followers, they just kind of like me sticking on Instagram. They don't want to go to other apps. So every once a week, I do a live every Monday morning, and I just kind of answer questions about marketing and branding. I try to do surveys on my polls because I'm really trying to let my followers control the narrative of the message. It's really about them, and if I can solve their problems in a 30-minute chat every Monday, I mean, it just builds relationships, it builds a networking opportunity, and some people, they can't pull money out of their pocket right now to even talk to a consultant. So right. Might as well do it, right? So
that's great because I know a lot of people that just don't know where to start. So being able to talk to someone who is an expert in branding for like a free opportunity, I think that's awesome. That's something that you're offering because so many people, it's intimidating to get on social media. It's like, where do I start? So
sure,
that's awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate having the opportunity to chat and some people on here. I see a couple of people that I know too that popped on, so that's always nice to see.
Absolutely. And Teresa and anybody else who logged in kind of a little later, I'm going to upload this on my IGTV. So if you guys, basically Karen talked about branding for photography, the importance of photos, the importance of having a brand with colors that match your personality, your vibe, and your energy, working with a photographer that will understand your personality and be able to portray that with photos. So please feel free. I know some of you just kind of logged in, and I'm sorry, but I will upload it, and you guys can watch it how many ever times you like. I'm going to also tag Kristen in the caption so that you can follow her, you can check out her beautiful work. And again, she did the new photo shoot that she did, and if you guys see my profile photo, she did that as well just about a week and a half ago. So she's great, she's professional. I didn't ask her to choose the government house, but I got there, I showed up in pink, and everything in the background matched up with my skin, it matched up with my clothes, and I'm like, this girl, she's good.
I'm so happy it worked out, and the weather was nice. I know it was touch and go for a bit there, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. A million other things, but you join me, and thanks for your time. I appreciate everything that you do, and follow Kristen. I'll keep her tag.